Hello and welcome to another episode of the Thought Leaders series with Student Garden. I'm George Glover, the CEO of Student Garden. Today I'm super excited to be joined by Yacine and Julie. Welcome.
Thank you so much, George. Thanks for having us.
You guys obviously co-founders of the amazing business SkillTrack. Excited to chat to you guys. We've been doing a few of these conversations lately, and a lot of conversation has been around the connection between industry and education. So obviously that's kind of the domain that you guys play in, but perhaps if you could start off just by telling us a little bit about the business and about the kind of journey so far for everyone listening in.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much for having us, George. We're very excited to be here and, to talk about SkillTrack and, the connection between placement education and where we come in.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, SkillTrack started in 2018, where Yacine was working as a placement coordinator and I was working in compliance. And, at the time we were, both trying to work in our different roles, but we were facing different challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And we were discussing them. Like, for example, in terms of placement coordination, Yacine thought that, there must be an easier way of doing this, where he was working off a little book and then trying to, to add the appointments. And
where most great ideas come from. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I was, sitting on the other end where I was at RTO compliance, and I was thinking, well, we need to make sure that the documentations are there. We need to make sure that we are doing the right thing by the student. And we thought, this is not working. This way is not working. There's definitely a gap there. And, having sort of a tech background and having compliance and having training, thought this is definitely something we can work on. And I said this is where the idea of SkillTrack started, but not really. It was a very vague idea, right? Because when we thought of that, let's work on a placement management system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we thought of that, it was only for the benefit of our own sort of roles. It was for me to maintain compliance, it was for Yacine to be able to do this placement coordination. And so we developed it, very basic sort of LMS, just with a scheduling and having a record sort of system for the documentation, that's it. And at the time, I think, Yacine, you went to the RTO you were working for, and you said, I've developed this, do you want to use it? And they were like, no, they were not really keen on it. And I went to my RTO and I'm like, we developed this thing, do you want to use it for free? I mean, just see how it goes. Yeah. And they were like, no, not really keen. And that was 2018, 2019, right? We used it a little bit, but the system really works when there is a larger crowd, because it sort of like accumulates industry partners, so it sort of widens the network, obviously. And then COVID hit. Yeah. And 2020 was like when SkillTrack actually happened.
Interesting.
Because we had more time. We were at home. We had more time to actually work on it. And I remember, working off an A4 paper with the user flows and actually working how it's going to happen and, all these ideas that we had. And so basically the start of it was thinking on compliance, only for the RTO point of view.
And is that in compliance specifically in terms of being able to associate the on-skill learning and the industry-based learning with the qualification?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So
and booking the appointments and scheduling and things like that.
Just the flow of it, the placement process. We're just thinking of that. And I realized that as we're developing it, that it was something, it took us to somewhere else. Not only we had one client, which was the RTO, but we had the student, another client, and the industry, the other client. So, the basic elements that we developed at the start was something completely different now, because we have 3 different clients with 3 different needs and requirements that we need to address. Mm-hmm. And so placement management system that we have now is actually a portal that has 3 different clients that are always connected, and they're very customized based on their requirements. So, I would say when we started, it was just me and Yacine sitting behind the black book and a A4 paper. And we're lucky enough that, we have been able to innovate on this. And we started with commercial cookery only in terms of placement. Yeah. Because that's where we were qualified. And now we're doing, all the courses that require a placement component, and nationwide as well. And all of that would have been possible without a tech team behind us, obviously, and our coordinators. So we have a team of 60 now, 60 people working behind us. Yeah. And it's all them. I mean, it's only so much that you can do.
I know what that's like.
That's right.
Well, that's amazing, and congratulations, obviously, on getting to where you are today. Out of kind of interest, obviously, you mentioned you started with the RTO side of the marketplace, and now you've kind of evolved into really kind of needing to meet to meet the needs of kind of three sides of the marketplace. When it kind of really, I guess, started to kind of, like you guys started to get scale, to your point, was that kind of about bringing on more RTOs? Was it nailing the industry part, or all those to kind of three things have grown at the same time? Or was there one thing that kind of went before the others to kind of really start, propelling you guys and getting that kind of growth to kick in?
Yes, I think that was the, so we started with commercial cookery, obviously. But then when we started with commercial cookery, we saw there is a need in other sectors as well, more compared to commercial cookery. Commercial cookery, the students can even find some of the restaurants themselves by just walking around. But if you have a look at disability, allied health, childcare, mental health, community service, that's where the students are struggling as well. So when we worked with a couple of RTOs on the commercial cookery, then we had a meeting with some other RTOs where they were doing the other courses. And we thought, well, we'll try it because we know we have the platform. And we have the coordinators who knows the whole process. So the process is the same.
Interesting.
And we were developing the platform, which was making it easier for us to connect the dots, the 3 dots. And that's when we went for the other courses. Then we added one by one. Now, currently, we have about 16 courses on scope, and we are developing the partners in every single, every month we have new courses coming on board, and then we have team who is developing the network behind it. Yeah.
And there's obviously a ton of research around how much more impactful kind of the learning is when it's obviously done kind of on the job, and kind of, that's kind of why for a lot of these courses, this type of placement learning on the job is just like so critical. Just in terms of, you mentioned COVID, I'm assuming had a huge impact on kind of, your world. Yeah. How do you kind of see that evolving kind of over the next 5-10 years?
I think placement in Australia, I think it is going to become even more essential in the next few years, especially in the education sector. The reason behind that is the industries are changing. It's changing rapidly. 5 times faster than the education sector we have. The students really need the real skills, which is in the industry, and that's where the students are struggling as well. Where sometimes they have the qualification, but then they don't have the skills to go out there and get the job on it. So I think, and you see most of the universities and RTOs that we have at the moment, when they're advertising for courses, they're advertising it with placement. The reason behind that is because the need is coming. The industry is changing, the students' mentality is changing, and we need to catch up. And the only way we can catch up with the industry is to put our students in the real world to make sure they gain the real skills. And now with SkillTrak, especially, we can connect them easy. We have an AI system in there. We have, everything is automated. So a student coming in, the student can be placed within 2 hours. Even, it can be that fast. So the dots are connected through SkillTrak, and we can really push this to make sure that the students really get the real life experience. For instance, myself, when I was working as a chef before.
Interesting.
I worked the other way around compared to the normal chefs. So I went into the industry. I found a job as a kitchen hand, washing dishes and stuff. When I was working there as a kitchen hand, I started to learn how to work on a ladder section.
Interesting.
And after a couple of months, I knew how to work on a ladder section. So I went to another industry and applied for a ladder position because I had the skills. I didn't have any qualifications. And then when I got the position there as a ladder chef, I was like, okay, cool, no worries, I can work now in the industry, I have the skills. Then after working for a few months, I went and got my qualification. Now, if I had the qualification before and I didn't have the skills, I think, which I can see now with thousands of students we have, the students where they struggle, they have the qualifications, but then they don't have any experience, and then they're looking for, experience afterwards for a year or two to be able to find a job. And what I did was the opposite way, and that's what made me realize as well that we can do better than what we do.
And it kind of surprises me. We hear about it all the time in terms of job shortages. In particular, obviously, you mentioned kind of hospitality is kind of, an area that gets kind of talked about a lot. And it always kind of surprises me when we've got all these people, migrating to Australia who are looking for work, and it kind of just doesn't really make sense. But maybe you guys can help me make some sense of it. So what are some of the challenges, I guess, associated with making that connection and helping students to get kind of a relevant work placement?
I think it is more complicated as it seems. It seems very easy that, you have a student and you got industry, just place them there. No, it doesn't work like that. the biggest problem that we are facing is the mismatch.
Yeah.
Placing the right student in the right industry. There need to be enough industries to be able to place the amount of students that we have in different sectors. Now, the mismatch can be resolved. I'll give you a story which I was working on a student yesterday. I am mostly involved in the operations and the tech part to make sure that whatever problem we are facing, we develop the tech solution for it. That's where the world is heading anyway. So I was listening to this conversation. One of the student we had yesterday for community service, and she was having a conversation with the coordinator. So the way we work do placement is we interview the student first to make sure that we know the need of the student first. The student was 45-year-old. She had her own business, gym or something.
Okay.
She had 2 kids. She was doing community service course. Now, community service is a very broad.
Yeah.
You can become anything. Different things from it. That student we asked a lot of questions, location, any medical conditions, heaps of questions. We knew the student requirement, but now we need to match that with the right industry to make sure that they are placed where they want. The student wanted to work with women.
Okay, yeah.
She could be working with drug and alcohol abuse or, children or different clients, but she preferred to work with women.
Yeah.
So we needed to match that requirements with the right industry where she can actually gain the experience that she requires. If we don't match it correctly, what happens is the student flips back. They're like, where did I put myself in? I'm 45-year-old. What I'm doing here? I should go back to my fitness. Yeah. So that's what one of the problem is. The second problem is that the industries that we are working with, they are, sometimes like Allied Health, when we are contacting the industries, they are telling us, oh, sorry, but we are only taking master level students, from unis.
Right, okay.
Or bachelors. We can do better than that.
Yeah,
we can give
absolutely.
opportunities to those who are studying certificate level or diploma level. We can really work from the industry side to make sure that they work with us to make sure that the skills, because they need that.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough workers, we are short staffed, and then we are struggling to find skilled worker in that particular sector. We have to have a strong network as well, and that's what SkillTrack is building.
Yeah.
SkillTrack is working with the RTOs closely to make sure that create a huge networking, for each sector.
Yeah.
That we have enough industries that no matter how many students you're bringing in, we have that, and then we have the AI part where we can match them the proper way so they can get the best experience possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, it's not kind of just any job for any person.
Yeah, exactly.
They're kind of, again, there's a commitment. There needs to be a level of personalization, which is obviously kind of where you come in. Julie, from a compliance point of view, because I imagine compliance has something to do with it, like how hard is it for an industry partner to get set up, not just with SkillTrack, but to be able to employ, someone who's kind of using it as part of their qualification? Is it relatively straightforward to like onboard, a social garden, a hotel, a restaurant? Like what's actually involved?
So in terms of compliance, we need to match the industry. So there are some eligible workplaces that can cover, this element of the placement. So that's the first thing that we need to check, okay? Then for us, it's a matter of also the same way that we are talking to, we do an interview with the student. When we're onboarding new industry partners, we also go through the same process. Because like I said to you before, like we have 3 different clients that we need to, we need to respond to. So we need to listen to what they want as well. So in terms of this, what we do is we go through, the requirements, the basic requirements of the course, but each of the course also has some tasks that needs to be completed.
Yeah.
All right? And that's what we express to the workplace.
Yeah.
And we also say to them, look, there will be a lot of observation being done, but they will need to be supervised and will need to be, it is part of the learning process. So that means that they are also involved in this, in the training of the student.
Because that's the commitment, isn't it, from an
That's
industry
right.
partner?
From
It's
the
kind
industry
of not
partner.
just, hey, we're going to, again,
Exactly.
obviously accepting and bringing these people kind of into the work environment is part of it, but they also actually need to partake in the learning process, right?
That's right. And I feel like with the industry partners that we work with, they're all very open to this idea because, they are making, this is the very first step in someone's career, the first time coming in. For the industry point of view, this is very beneficial because you have someone that is learning, getting qualified very soon, that has the knowledge, that is, very motivated, and that you can sort of train, mold, and sort of like, if it fits in, then why not keeping them and employing them afterwards? So I think, go back to your question in terms of compliance, how hard it is if we provide the right information from the first place, it is not hard in terms of compliance, because the industries are doing the right thing themselves. I mean, they have policies and procedures are in place to make sure everything runs smoothly, and now it's just matching it to the requirements of the course. And as long as it fits, then it's perfect for us. Like, there's no issues.
And I mentioned the skill gap before, and I'd love to hear from either of you around, I guess, what role does kind of placements and internships and this kind of on-the-job learning, what role does that have kind of in closing this kind of skill gap that, every day when we open the newspaper or your online news publication and we're talking about, shortages in kind of certain key areas. What role does placements and internship have in kind of solving and closing that gap?
Oh, a massive role. I mean, I go by... Let's talk about my experience now. So I came in as an international student years ago, and I enrolled in Advanced Diploma of Hospitality Management with a 2-year course in commercial cookery.
Okay.
And back in the day, I'm talking about a very old sort of package. Back in the day, you had to be in class Monday to Friday.
Yep.
That was the requirements. So I couldn't really work. Okay, I didn't have that time. So I was working casually at MCG. I don't think there was any placement component at this stage as well. So everything that we were doing was the practical that we were doing was in class. Yeah. Now, academically, I was fantastic, okay? I'm that student that's always like, me, sort of thing, and is just taking notes, And I was really focused. So in terms of passing the course, I was doing fantastic, okay? So I graduated, and I was so excited. I was like, I'm a qualified chef, like really, really excited to just get into the industry. And that was a disaster.
Right.
A disaster. Because I didn't get that chance of adapting to the industry. I didn't get the moment where I'm still in the learning stage and, now it's the real world. Now, whatever I've applied, and like I said, like academically, I was fantastic, right? I learned everything. I knew everything. But then how do you apply this to the real world? Because it's different.
Especially in a high-stress environment.
Exactly,
like
exactly,
a kitchen, right?
Exactly. So for me, it just took me back, I think, like a year or a year and a half in my career, And now that we're in a position where we provide displacement service to the student, I can really see the change that it's bringing, like having displacement component. And, this is really the start of someone's career. This is the first time in the industry and gives you the chance to adapt to the real world, because you're still in a learning sort of process. So it's okay to make mistakes, right? You're here to learn. So people have no expectation. The industry doesn't have any expectation of you in a sense of like, you're not being paid for it or you're not an employee, you know what I mean? You're not coming with like years and years of experience. You're coming and they understand that. They're here to support you in this journey. So you have the time to adapt. And then once you finish your placement and you get your qualification, you're job ready.
Yeah.
And which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like your purpose is very clear. You talking about your experience kind of going through that process to kind of learn on the job, then get qualified, and now hearing Julie about your experience that you've just told. Obviously, I get the sense that your purpose really is about making sure that people are kind of prepared for and like having the journey that is, it's not linear, but is kind of predictable in terms of the outcome and kind of the time investment. You're going to kind of have the skills and you're going to be job ready.
Exactly. Because you need a time to adapt. Like no one is ready for this, right? When you're doing training, you're learning of a role play, you're learning of scenarios, you know what I mean? Then when you go to the industry, how do I apply this? Yes, you're telling me I need to have some skills. You're telling me I need to have problem-solving skills. You're telling me I need to be like this. But how do I apply this to the real world? So definitely you need the time to adjust to this, to the environment. And having placement and internship is very important. But I think, in my opinion, I think all courses should have a placement component.
Yeah. What is it in terms of a percentage of let's use like, the kind of private RTO space? Like what percentage of courses have kind of an industry work placement component, do you think?
Well, all the skills ones. I'm very focused on skills. But who defines this? I mean, like, how do you know that someone that is studying business or IT doesn't need placement.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
It's the same thing, right? You're still going to be placed in a corporate world that are serving different services, products.
Yeah.
How do you adapt this? What the knowledge that you've done at school, how do you actually apply this to the real world?
It's really interesting how you talk about, again, kind of being job ready. I was having a conversation with one of our employees who started off as an intern and kind of has now worked in the business for a few years. And he was kind of having a laugh. I can't remember what we were talking about. But anyway, he made a side comment where he was like, I kind of didn't talk to anyone really for like the first year because I was so shy and kind of just finding my feet. And
Exactly.
it's kind of the thing that I observe a lot of the times with interns coming into our business is it's about kind of breaking down those barriers, getting them comfortable with the environment so they can start. Not everyone has the ability to kind of just come in and have the willingness to kind of make mistakes, ask questions that they deem to be silly questions. So I think, again, that whole fast track to try and remove some of the barriers that people have when joining the workplace, I think is like, something I've definitely observed.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. In terms of industry and the kind of education sector, you guys are right on the cold face of that kind of integration. What things do you think we could be doing to kind of strengthen the relationship between kind of industry and the education and qualifications? Like, what are some of the practical things that could be happening to kind of drive better outcomes for students?
Well, in terms of compliance, again, so now SkillTrak is not bound by compliance, right?
Yeah.
We're not an RTO, but our client
of course.
has compliance requirements, which we follow. Now, in terms of compliance, an RTO needs to be in constant communication with the industry to check the curriculum, to make sure that it is current and relevant to the industry, right? That is their requirements.
Yeah, that's pretty high on the old compliance checklist.
That's pretty high there, yeah, exactly. And having the placement management system allows that, through SkillTrak. We leave that open communication. But I think it should go a bit more than that. We shouldn't just wait for, I'm going to add a course on scope, I need your input. Or I'm going to apply for registration, I need your input. I feel like it should be on a more regular sort of basis because the industry is moving so fast that how long does it take for a training package to be developed, for example? Do you know what I mean? So if we're having a conversation now and you know that this is what's missing, but we need to then get it developed, get it approved, and get it, and for everyone to start using it. So it takes a long time. So I think that it needs to be more on a regular sort of basis, and not so much, this is compliance, I have to do it, but really having an open communication with the industry to understand. And really, the industry should be the one telling us what to put in the training package, you know what I mean? They should be so much more involved in this.
It's really interesting. Like I was listening to Hacked on Triple J a few days ago, and there was this big conversation around people who have like Afro style hair that they find it really difficult to find a hairdresser. And they were talking about it's actually related to the package that basically is delivered for all the hairdressers across Australia, basically doesn't teach them how to kind of cut the style of hair. And I was like thinking about that, where I was like, I mean, like that just, it like seems so wild. That like, and you can just imagine, to your point, whether it's food, whether it's hairdressing, like we're a bit about, I want to ask you about technology and kind of get to that, but it's like we're in this crazy fast moving world. The fact that we're kind of having to rely on, course content that was perhaps, written years ago, it doesn't really seem like it's, it's going to kind of cut it. And obviously there's so much conversation around good and bad actors across the RTO space, and obviously the government working hard to make sure the students are kind of getting value and have kind of a pathway to a career through the courses that they're studying. So obviously SkillTrak is like really helping to kind of fulfill that, I guess, that kind of challenge within the industry.
Yeah, definitely. And we're thinking it, we're always listening to feedback is so important for us. Like we're always talking to the industry. What do you need? Like tell us more, because we can relay that information to RTOs. We can relay that information, to in our networking. I mean, like, with the connections that we have. And definitely there's something, there is a little bit of a gap there, and that's something that needs to be addressed.
We got the solution for it through SkillTrak, where we developed this, any industry that works with their students, we make them connected to their RTO portal where they can see all their listed industries, all their contact details, every information that they need from the industry is available to them. And it's just one phone call away where they can just book, or through the portal book a video conference or whatnot.
You know, I imagine from a data point of view, you know, the amount of information that you guys can kind of provide back to the RTO in terms of fulfilling the requirements of the course kind of out in the field, I imagine is really significant. In terms of technology, obviously, you know, you guys are a technology business. Obviously, we've got this crazy amount of change happening now with, you know, Gen AI kind of hitting the mainstream. You've kind of already mentioned, you know, you're leveraging AI kind of within the business. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of how you guys think about technology, how you're leveraging technology, and kind of where you think the future of your platform, how it's going to kind of change and evolve over time?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, technology is everywhere. We open our phone, social medias, our shopping nowadays, you know, ChatGPT, you know. So everything is just technology. And we are actually, you know, since we have so many different parties involved, and every day when we are working, we are bumping with different problems because our business is so unique. So we have to make sure that, you know, the problems that we have today, it doesn't happen tomorrow. And the only way we can actually control this is to turn around to our tech team and like, well, we need a solution. Let's discuss it. And we have conversations and we bring you know, solutions to those problems that we are facing. On daily basis, I mean, on daily basis, we have few problems and we have few solutions for it. We're trying to bring that into the our platform. It's been where we were 6 months ago. If I show you the platform and where we are today, I mean, it's completely different. And that's what a good thing, you know, about our team is that they always think on their feet to make sure they come up with a solution. Now, in terms of AI, that's where we are focusing. We're currently working on. Everything is automated. Everything we're trying to focus on that more because we have to make sure that all the three parties are happy. There are actually 4 parties. One of the parties coordinators. They need to, because they're the assessors as well. They need to be, you know, involved in there too.
Oh, so they assess it within your platform as well?
They can assess within their platform. And there's communication, you know, all those things are involved. The main issue which I discussed with you earlier, the mismatch. And mismatch can be resolved, I think, very faster and better than human beings by AI, And when we have this student who has the requirement and the needs in, you know, a very tight schedule or whatnot they have, and then we got this industry who has also set requirements. We can match them together by using an AI, and I think it will give us a bit more better results. And we are heading towards that. We're currently working on it to make sure that we have this platform, you know, in a way where it's mostly automated.
And I love that with that. It's like very easy, I imagine, for you to track the success of that because obviously you've got placements, how effective are you from like interview to placement? And then I imagine obviously retention has a huge part of it because obviously if you're good at matching, you know, the right student to the industry, obviously the student's going to kind of retain and obviously see out kind of the work experience, which is cool because I think a lot of the time it's like we're kind of just building the technology because we think we need to or it's cool, whereas this is like really, it's moving a really key and obvious metric for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. There are a couple of other things like, for example, appointments booking for the assessors or sales for students with the industries or student scheduling, which days they are working, you know, their availability, etc. Their special needs, like they have, you know, what sort of outcome they want to get from it. Do they want to get a job from it? Do they just want to get the experience or whatnot? We ask all those questions. And sometimes when the students, we match them with the right fit, most of the times, they get the jobs out of it as well. So, which is a really great thing. And I think it can help the students when we match them through the AI. I think it can faster the whole process of it.
Yeah. In terms of, you know, I mentioned there's lots of change happening in the technology space. There's also just like lots of change happening within the job market. Obviously, it's very topical right now, given we're in a high inflationary kind of environment, you know, not just here in Australia, but globally as well. What are some of the kind of trends and things, you know, you think students and educators should kind of be aware of, you know, when they're kind of thinking about an integrated study plus kind of job and obviously, you know, looking for a job that's actually the outcome's going to be them kind of getting and joining the workforce. Like what are some of the trends that are happening and what are some of the things people should be aware of?
I think definitely like we covered this technology. This is definitely something to be anticipated. So mostly our students that we work with, they are very new, so they're starting, their journey now. So either international or domestic student. But one of the clients that we work with, their students different, and I'm going to just paste it on their clients. Because they are the ones that have not worked in the industry for a long time and are now doing a course and re-entering the market. And I mean, these guys, they are going to have a bit of a shock there because it has changed so much technology-wise. So you need to adapt to this. But not only that, even the way that now we are working remotely. I mean, everything is online. We're working remotely or blended, and we have to use some softwares, right? Like we have to use some ways of digital sort of communication tools. We use Slack a lot. Yeah. You have, Teams, Microsoft Teams, or you have Zoom and things like that. So that is something as well. So I think that students and educators should be aware of this because this is where the market is. And in any field, this is where the market is. And also I think soft skills are very important. Okay. What I was saying before, we work off role plays and scenarios. And in the real world, you need to have problem-solving skills. You need to be ready for this because you need to know how to fix this on the spot. How do we move forward? And that's something that I think the education training, so any sort of package that they have, any courses that we have, I think an elective in there should be this. Critical thinking, adapting to environment. I think this is very important there. And that should be, addressed when we're developing any sort of new materials. Because that is something that we face every day.
Exactly.
Problem-solving skills. And I'm sure you face it. Anyone that has business is always thinking.
The trend is that, like students, especially they're looking for like practical skills. Mostly they're looking for, skills that they can actually, like back in the days people used to believe more in theory rather than actually going out there and getting the real industry skills. I think that's where everything is heading.
Yeah, I know kind of from my own experience. I studied a Bachelor of Design, and it wasn't really until like the first year was very theory heavy, or it wasn't as simulated as once we got to second year. It was like all industry briefs, like way more simulated in terms of timelines, deadlines, deliverables. And it was like at that point when it really started to kind of click. And I think credit to CPIT and Christchurch where I went, they did a great job, I think, kind of intertwining the industry kind of into the course content like really early, and I felt a lot more prepared probably than friends of mine who were studying design down in Dunedin it was very theory focused, what I mean? So I definitely subscribe to the fact that more practical, more this is what you're going to get when you kind of get out, to your point, preparing people for the workforce is only going to kind of enable it's going to be great for both sides, right? It's going to make the student more engaged, more happy. They're going to be able to obviously, provide for themselves, for their families faster. And then obviously on the industry side, we're going to have to invest less amount of money in training and getting people up to speed. There's going to be less, turnover because people are going to be more engaged and they're going to have the right people from the start. So I think kind of nailing this obviously is going to be huge in terms of, the future of work and the future of kind of education and training, across the globe.
Yes,
exactly.
Definitely, yes.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys. I've loved kind of chatting with you both. For those who are looking to get in touch and reach out to you, is LinkedIn the best place to kind of find and connect with the two of you?
Yeah, definitely. LinkedIn, yes. And we're on social media. We're very, very cool.
Okay.
We're out there. You can reach us. Yes.
So use the technology.
Terrific. Well, if you're an RTO and you're looking to, optimize the way you kind of work with industry, or if you're an industry person kind of listening in, you want to kind of connect with, trainers on the other side and kind of get some awesome skilled workers in your business, obviously reach out to SkillTrack. And thanks again for coming on and joining us for a conversation.
Thank you so much, George.
Thanks, George.